Good, good morning. It is Tanny Reed Walker here. It is the first Monday of 2021. So welcome to Monday morning. This is a space where we talk about grief and mourning. I am a counselor with Barons Rica Warner Family and Community Support Services. I work in southern Alberta. We have a large geographical area. If you're watching live, I'd love it if you'd say hi. If it's a replay for you, I would also love it if you said hi. I welcome comments and any insights, any suggestions, questions. I've been doing this for over 6 months, I believe. So there's a lot of content in the past, and I'm looking for new ideas to keep going. Today we are talking about the final chapter in Dr. Alan Wolfelt's book. This is Living in the Shadows of the Ghosts of Grief. Step into the light, and it's reconciling old losses and opening the door to infinite joy and love. And so, as you can imagine, this final chapter is the actual stepping into the light. So the previous chapters were just understanding what loss is and the different kinds of losses that we have in our lives. The part 2 was why we carry that grief instead of mourning it. And if you haven't heard the difference between grief and mourning before, I will share here. Grief is the internal feelings, emotions, thoughts, images that are inside of us in relation to our losses. And mourning is moving those out. So making that public, making that external for us. For you people that are like, I'm an introvert, I don't want to make it public. But the idea is to move it out into the world. So going to a cemetery and spending some time there in that peace and connection could be a way of mourning. Writing, art, any kind of art, going for a drive, lighting a candle. There's so many ways of mourning. But lots of times we haven't learned how to move that out because those feelings and thoughts and images are they can be so uncomfortable, and we've learned in our society not to move those forward and move those out. We're just supposed to pack it away and carry on. This is talking about how that closes our lives when we pack it away, instead of expanding it, letting us be more open to joy and connection. Thanks for the hand wave. The next part 3 was we talked about, are you carrying grief? So it was kind of going through an assessment of what kind of things have happened in your life that you might have just kind of packed away and not even realized or acknowledged that that was a loss, and that losses are worth attending to, even when we need to continue living our lives. And part 4, which came out the last one in 2020, and it was how to heal your carried grief. Some really concrete ideas on ways to heal the carried grief. And today is stepping into the light. And what a beautiful way to talk about moving into the new year. So even if you are just starting this and winter is a dark time, like that's what's happening right now in the world when I created this video, and it's a good time to go into those nooks and crannies and start doing that housekeeping, and then eventually being able to step out into the light. So if you've already been doing that work, then what better way to start 2021? And if you're starting this work, then it's a way of knowing that there's hope for the future. Okay, so Dr. Alan Wolfelt often starts his chapters, and he has lots of quotes, and here is one. Attending to our untended sorrow opens the way to a new life. And this is from Stephen Levine. And how lovely is that? Attending to something that we've not tended to leads to a new life. And I think about that pile in the corner of one of the spaces in my home, and sometimes it's like really daunting to look at that pile, and you become so used to it that you just don't even acknowledge it anymore. It's not even there. You don't even know it's in it, but you've become so accustomed to that being there that you just kind of carry your life. And then in my world, the pile gets bigger and bigger, and then the space of where I exist and do things in my life seems to get smaller and smaller. It diminishes, and it gets heavy and uncomfortable. I can't find anything. So when I take the time to do the pile, like work on the pile, figure it out, suddenly there's more space in my world. There's I find things in the pile. I'm like, oh, I totally forgot about that. This is something I can do, or I want to do, or maybe this is for somebody else and I need to give that to them. So it's just attending to those things internally also creates space, and it creates like creativity and like, oh, just more light. And that's what this chapter is about, stepping into the light. If anybody has any questions or comments all through this and wants to share, please do, now or in the replay. I really hope that people do check out the comments. So we're learning to integrate the pain into our heart and making peace with ourselves and the world around us. When you give attention to carried grief of life losses and give voice to it, it requires you doing the healing process, and that requires encountering that is most feared. One of the journals that I'm working on for the new year is, what is something that you fear that you're not aware of? And so it's not sitting at the top of my brain, it's hiding somewhere. So it takes some time to kind of process that, and I wonder what people's way of processing that is. Are you somebody that needs to go into nature? Are you a journaler? Do you listen to music? Do you need to have some fun? What works for you? For me today, I forced myself to go for a walk. I found that not moving in 2020 has not been great for my physical being. I lost all of that momentum, so picking that up for the new year has been super helpful already this morning. So I wonder if anybody else has any experiences like that they'd like to share. If you do, just type it in. Okay, opening to what might be tempting to close yourself off from. So is there a new opportunity? Is there something that just kind of excites you and makes you afraid at the same time? Well, healing helps you walk towards those opportunities. The never-ending journey into wholeness. We never arrive at a spot because new things happen in our life. But wouldn't it be so lovely to be able to not be carrying that backpack of all of those carried losses with us? We can just have like a phone. So if you have an item, you can carry that in your backpack, but if you have a phone and you take a picture of it, then it doesn't weigh anything. It's just there. You can access that memory whenever you want, but you're not carrying that weight as you go into the future. You can honor your past and hope for the future. Both are very important, as is the present. So working on this now is working in the present, but you're honoring the past and hoping for the future. That seems so much holistic. And a transformation of the heart and soul. You can feel it. have all this stuff from the past little while. So I think about the Grinch, and he had this really huge experience, and his heart grew 2 sizes. So his heart literally changed, and his soul changed, and it was amazing. And you hear about that in the Christmas Carol story, and it's a story that goes through all of humanity. I can imagine we have tons and tons of examples of that change that can happen. And I hope that for you. Okay, so I don't know if I've probably talked about it before, but one of the quotes that Dr. Alan Wolfelt talked about many years ago when I first was introduced to him was, "Darkness is the chair that light sits in." And so when you're going deep into that darkness, into those loss, into those deep feelings of grief, you're mourning them. You're creating that chair for the light to sit in. And how beautiful is that, to have something holding that beautiful light? Okay, so here we are, transforming into the light. What is this? So you're going to discover your new life. You are going to be congruent. So congruent is where your inside matches your outside. I think a lot of people are walking around with a mask. They're walking around afraid to show anybody what's inside them. Sometimes they're afraid to even know what's inside them. So we've learned to numb it out, ignore it, just mask it. And that's really uncomfortable. And it doesn't work well with connection. If you're showing one face and then as soon as somebody starts to get to know you, they find a completely different person under there, that's very uncomfortable. And if everybody's walking around afraid to be who they are, yeah, literal and figurative masknet these days, I agree, Charisma. If you're hiding, it's really hard to connect. And like Charisma said, we're right now in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, and we're all hiding. And I've heard so many times, I feel so much better going out into the world with a mask on so no one can see me. It's because it just makes it so much more easy to hide. Wouldn't it be beautiful to just not feel like you need to hide? So Carl Rogers says that at the core level, our essence needs to be congruent with our middle level, which is what we perceive ourselves to be. And the surface level, our form, consists of our behaviors and the self we display to the world. We must match on all levels. And I think I had a couple of ideas. One was, we all have heard, does the book match the cover? So if you have a cover of a book and it doesn't reflect anything on the inside, then it's very disappointing. Or if the book and the table of contents and the contents of the book are not matching, it's very confusing and uncomfortable to be in. I've been in trainings where I've been given a manual and they're going through and doing the training, but they're not following anything in the manual, and it's really hard on my head. And that's how we are often as people. Another example is, I love food. So I've been to restaurants where they show this menu with the most beautiful, amazing sounding food, and then what comes to my table is ew. That's really disappointing, because I had read that menu, I was excited about what I was ordering, and then what shows up in front of me is nothing like what I wanted, and that's extremely disappointing. So we want to work on our carry grief so that we can show up and our outside matches our inside. I don't know. Hopefully that makes sense. Here's some more concrete ways of understanding if you're living congruently or not. Trying to be honest at all times. And that doesn't mean you see somebody and their shirt is hideous, in your opinion, and saying, oh my gosh, that shirt is hideous. Or one time I was trying out a nose ring, and I got told I looked like I had boogers hanging from my nose. Well, that was one person's opinion. So you don't need to be cruel in your honesty, but you do need to be honest. Honest about yourself. Are you aware of who you really are, and don't wear masks? So are you showing who you are? And that's not saying you have to be so vulnerable that you're just spewing emotion all over everybody, but it's letting people know who you are. So for example, when I'm out in the world, I'm a fairly kind person, but I'm also I'm very fiery on the inside, and sometimes the things that I say might come across as a little bit more forceful. And that's who I am. When I try to dampen that down and those things slip out, then they come out as more hurtful. You honestly claim your thoughts and speak them. Again, not cruelly. This is a way of, this is what I believe, and it's okay that I believe that, and it's okay that you believe what you believe. You're not trying to hide what your thoughts are. Honestly claiming your feelings and showing them. Wouldn't it be amazing if we were able to be more expressive in our feelings? I know sometimes I feel exuberantly excited about things, and people are a little put off by that, and it's because our expression seems to have been muted in some of our society, or maybe a lot. Honestly claim your mistakes and try to correct them. Wouldn't it be lovely to be able to make mistakes, admit it, and repair? A lot of human connection is that. If you're close to somebody, you're going to make mistakes. That's the way it is. But repairing that is so powerful. When one of my grandchildren right now is learning how to crawl, and she makes a lot of mistakes in trying to figure this out, and she doesn't feel bad about them, because if she felt bad about them, she would never progress. But you can always see her trying to correct things or try to adjust to it, and it would be so awesome if we were able to do that. Be like, oh, I made a mistake there, and give them permission. The permission first has to come from you. And if you've given yourself space by clearing out a lot of that old garbage that's in there, oh my Lanta, how beautiful is that? Honestly claim your doubts and questions and raise them. So if you're questioning something or it doesn't feel congruent to you, you can raise them. You don't have to be angry about it, but you can just say, I'm really curious about this, or I'm not sure that works for me. I'm going to research it more. I've heard somebody say, when somebody asked them a question and they weren't quite sure, they just said, let me pray on that. Just give yourself a little space. And again, that space comes from doing your work. And honestly claim your beliefs and live them. We are living in a society where there are so many beliefs, and we're working on creating space for all of them. And be authentically you, and really listen to you and what your beliefs are. So those are some of the things that you can do to live congruently. So while going into yourself to mourn your carried grief, here's some things that can result from that. You can have more purpose and meaning. When you carry the pain of your grief, the numbness will mask your natural hunger for looking for meaning and purpose. When you're conscious about your carried grief, you think, who am I? What am I meant to do with my life? Does my life really matter? And you can start to really look at these big questions, because they are big. And when you start to acknowledge your losses and see how you've come through them, because one way or another, whether you're carrying it or not, you have come through it, you can start to realize your own assumptions, your own values, your own priorities, and that creates the answers to who am I? Why am I here? It's really quite cool. Lots of times when there's been a lot of loss and you start looking through that carried grief, you may start to value material goods and status less and relationships more. And I feel like with COVID, that's what I've heard so much over and over again. I can't see my loved ones. I can't be with my friends. And those relationships are so important. And we created Zoom calls and Microsoft Teams and Google Hangout, and Snapchat has group things, and Instagram I think has group things, and Facebook, and all of these things are important to us because we're trying to create connection and realize how important people are. It's really amazing. So mourning sets you on a path of searching for your soul. When you're mourning your life losses outside, you are beginning to look inside. So it's like you're looking around inside yourself and you're like, oh, here's a piece, let's put it out there. Oh, here's another piece, let's put it out there. And then as you create that space, you're like, oh, this is who I am. This is who I am. So it can be scary. Lots of people are like, if I go through this, will I like who I am? And we're afraid to find out who we are without all of that stuff hiding us. And I think that when you soften, it'd be really hard to not like yourself. Really. And when you clear out that space, even if you find that it's like kind of open and there's potential, then you can create what you want. You can create that potential. So when I clean out that corner and all of a sudden I'm like, that needs something there, I'm going to buy a beautiful vase for it. Or I just have this treasured item that a family member had, maybe the one who passed on, and it fits there so perfectly and so beautifully. It's the same with your insides. There may be space and openness, but as humans we're designed to grow, and having space is so powerful. When you fight, you harden. When you soften, you allow. So try to soften to yourself and to your experience. We don't need to continue living in a dazed, numb way. That's really disempowering. So as you heal the carried grief, you might find you have more energy and more life force. It's like when you're walking in your neighborhood and you're just focused on the goal, or it's really foggy, or it's dark and you're not really seeing what's around you. And then all of a sudden the sun comes out and maybe you're more relaxed and you start to think, oh my goodness, did I notice that before? And is this new? And you can walk that neighborhood so many times and still find new things. And that's what it's like when you go inside you. And that's what it's like when you're experiencing the world. You just have more energy to see and experience new things. When you're in pain, you're so focused on that pain that the whole world shrinks in. And carried grief is painful. So how much has it shrunk your world? And it's heavy. It just weighs on you. It robs you of your energy. You just have such a hard time getting up and doing anything because you're carrying that. And as you heal it and unpack it and work through it, you just get lighter and lighter and lighter, and you get stronger. And you have more skills in how to handle life and how to carry it. And you know what to do more and more and more. It's quite lovely. More feelings. When you're trying to numb one feeling, you're going to numb all the feelings. So once you start experiencing and understanding those feelings that are coming to you, you're opening up to a wide spectrum. It's a difference between only seeing the primary colors, which are red, blue, and yellow, versus when you suddenly get to start mixing them. And then you can add light and dark and all of the different things, and suddenly the palette is massive. So you go from a primary to this massive expansion of creation. You can tell I'm a big fan of feeling the feelings. All of this is about feeling the feelings. So again, if you're wearing a mask, you're masking your feelings. You're living with a false self. Your feelings are there to tell you what's going on. It's like a speedometer that's just letting you know. So it's like your dashboard. Oh, I'm feeling this. What's going on for me? Why is this happening? You will be able to experience more love, intimacy, and connection. I don't know if you've ever tried to kiss somebody wearing a mask. It's not so nice. If you've ever tried when you're wearing a big clunky Halloween costume to give somebody a hug, it's not so good. If you are being congruent with yourself, you can experience more love, intimacy, and connection. Oh, wouldn't it be lovely to let people know right from the hop, this is who I am, this is how I believe. I don't have to pretend anything to impress anyone. I'm going to attract with all people that admire who I am. You can do that. You can do that when you're not hiding and not super afraid of that big pile of carried grief. You can open that broken heart, open it up, and be able to bring in people to help rebuild it. One thing about loss is you often realize that love is the one thing that we can't live without. Why is there so many movies about it? Why is there so much music about it? Books, poetry, paintings, dancing, sculptures, all of it. So, love, intimacy, and connection. You will be open to more possibilities, because when you're focused or your view is really, really clouded, you can't see the different ways. So if you're walking through the neighborhood and it's super foggy, you can't see that in between those two houses there's a path to like a forest park or something in behind. Or if you're really clouded and you're walking, you can't see that sunshine that's off in the horizon, ready to rise, because you're just covered in fog. You have more quality of experience. So you're just more open, more awake, have increased insight as to what's going on for other people and in circumstances. It builds an expanded ability to have compassion, more satisfaction and fulfillment. This is where, when you're stepping out of that shadow and you create that space, that you start to discover your own talents and gifts. And you don't feel like you need to have other people's talents and gifts. You realize that yours are talents of gifts. One of the questions I ask when people first come to me for counseling in my intake process is, tell me about some of your strengths and hobbies. And lots of people very much blank out. They're not quite sure what I mean. So we get to have a beautiful, rich conversation about who they are outside of the difficulty that they're coming to me with. And through that, I get to see their strengths, and I get to help them help them see them themselves. Because a lot of times we don't know. We're not quite sure. Working through your carried grief gives you space to do that. And I think I've talked about creativity, but it deserves its own little tiny section. You will be able to have a bigger capacity for problem solving and imagination and just creativity. And once you discover your own talents and your own gifts, then you can use them creatively. It's very cool. And you can have more faith in spirituality. Again, creating space for ideas, understanding that at the heart of it all, you are never alone. When you're hiding in the dark, in a closet, or under a bed, or wherever, you feel really alone. And doesn't it feel good to be found? I know I play hide and seek with the grandkids when they're at a certain age. They hide, but oh, they want to be found so much. They make noises. They even say sometimes, "I'm over here." And we play and we're like, "Where are you?" We know where they are the whole time, but they don't know that because they're hiding. And they understand that they want to be found. They want to be found. And I think that's a big part of faith and spirituality. It's learning to work all of the things, work and play and service, all with love. I'm a big fan of love. And making peace with your pain invites you to live with truth. As you self-reflect and journey through this, you will discover your own truths. What's true for you? What's true? When you take away the fear and the masks, what is true? And that is working through all of those things and opening yourself up to the possibilities. Another thing that will happen, or could happen, is you'll start to touch the world around you. So you might hear of somebody who went through a loss similar to yours, and you reach out to them. You might find that you want to use your unique gifts and talents to help other people, to have compassion for other people, and to express that. And doesn't that make your life and other people's lives bigger? I'm so excited that you've come on this journey with me. And I wonder, have any of you experienced that? I know I have. I decided I wanted to become a social worker and a counselor. And then working through grief, I realized I want to help other people work through their grief. And then it just grows and carries on. So you will live on purpose and make a difference in the world. So instead of hiding, instead of protecting yourself, instead of carrying that giant load of that carried grief, you will be able to live on purpose and decide where in this world you make a difference. And I think we all make a difference. Oh, I love people. Okay, so 5 questions that Dr. Alan Wolfelt thinks that they're most important, really matter at the end of life are, have I given love well? When you say you love somebody or something or some cause, did you do it with compassion and kindness? Did you love well? Have I received love well? This is important. If people are giving you love, and I mean good love, are you accepting it? Are you receiving it? Have I mourned life's losses well? And by well, it means, have I felt the feelings? Have I moved them out? Have I contributed to making the world a better place? And it doesn't have to be huge. You can make it with small ways. It might be a wave or a smile to somebody. It might be the dedication of going to your job every day and supporting people. There's so many things you could do. Volunteering, there's so many things. And have I lived an on-purpose life? Have I been choosing? Those are really great questions. Carry your transformation forward. Tomorrow is now. It's here and it's waiting for you. You have many choices in living the transformation that healing your carried pain will bring to your life. So look at the direction you're being called to. And here are some signs that you are now living free of your carried grief, that you've stepped out of the shadows of the ghost of grief and into the light. You feel a sense of belonging in the world around you, as if the universe was embracing you. That is a very expanded idea. You experience a full sense of joy of not being alone as you face things in life. The lights are on. You can see what's around you. And as you walk towards the things that you have to face, you can see the support. You can see the outside and the inner support. You experience times when you feel you are in contact with the source of wisdom, love, and healing. That faith, that spiritual guide. You've created space for that. You notice a persistent sense that someone or something genuinely wants you to evolve and fulfill your potential. This comforting presence is supporting you without judgments or conditions. Just know that you're being supported. You feel mysteriously supported and loved at times when you need it. Keep your eyes open to the divine. You discover that giving love is ever more vital than getting love. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't accept love. And I mean love that fulfills you and nourishes you. You persevere even in the face of adversity. You create goals for yourself and set about accomplishing them with continued patient effort. You can choose to work not just when it's required. You seek self-discipline and self-responsibility. So we're not hiding, we're not avoiding the piles, we're working on them. And as stuff gets thrown in there, in that corner, like it tends to do because life keeps happening, we have the response of self-responsibility and discipline to be like, there's a pile there, I need to get rid of it before it gets overwhelming again. You experience a loving presence in the universe that surrounds you. You can experience a feeling of being personally loved by the people in your life, and you express love to them. So it's that feeling of not being alone, even when people aren't around. You know that you are loved. And you experience a gentleness of spirit and a kindness of heart. You just find that you're more soft and gentle in all of your life. Even if you're a high active impact person, you have a little softness around that. Kindness fills you. And you will start to experience the beauty around you, like the sun rising, or a new flower just coming out of the grass, or a child laughing that you can hear through the window. So many things. And you experience gratitude for being more alive than you were before. You're not a ghost anymore. So that was the journey through the darkness to step into the light and take all of those ghosts and get rid of them. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you. I appreciate the work you're doing, if you require assistance, because you do not have to do this alone. It is a lot of work, and a lot of times if you don't have an idea or a guide on how to do that, it can be really lonely and easy to give up. So let me know what's going on for you, and I look forward to doing another Monday morning next week. I'm not sure what I'm going to pick. I have an idea, but we'll see. It'll be a surprise. Thank you so much for joining me. And again, anytime you want to contact me, you can contact me through the MD of Tabor FCSS. You can contact me through the www.fcss.ca. And just want you to know I appreciate you, and I really hope this year is a beautiful year of growth and light for you.